Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a review for the 2020 Genesis Invitational, where Adam Scott is your winner, which is good. Good to see Adam Scott on top again. Before we get into the video, I'm going to do this like I did in the last couple videos. If you want to watch this video in a faster speed, which I recommend, go ahead, drag your cursor over my face. You're going to see a gear icon somewhere down here. Click that gear icon, find playback speed, choose the speed that you're comfortable watching it at. You can mess around with it. I personally recommend 1.5 times speed. But yeah, go ahead, pick whatever speed. Also on mobile, you're going to see up here, top right corner, 3 dots in a vertical line. Click that, you'll find playback speed there as well. And again, pick whatever speed. Also, I will have timestamps in the description, so find what segment you want to watch. I'm not going to be offended if you don't watch the whole video. Go ahead and just pick the information you want to see. I'm going to go ahead, throw up the recent form tab. I do want to talk about the tournament a little bit. So I didn't get to watch a lot of it on Sunday. I did watch most of it on Thursday and Friday and Saturday morning. It was crazy. That golf course was the champion. Honestly, I've never seen that course that tough. I never realized the greens were that fast. I knew last year at the last round, so it was a monsoon last year throughout the first, couple days. So it was soft conditions, nothing like what those golfers had to play on this year. There was no rain, so there's no moisture, and it was windy. So those greens really firmed up and they putted really fast. You could tell the golfers who were very skittish and squeamish on the greens did very poorly. I mean, like watching Xander Schauffele throughout Thursday and Fridays, I wasn't sure if he was going to make the cut. He was so afraid of the greens, it looked like, and rightfully so. Like, you need to respect these greens, but he wasn't putting them aggressively. And Tiger, for his first couple rounds, did pretty well. His first round, he did really well. Almost choked it all away, almost didn't make the cut on his second round. But he's the type of putter who knows Poana greens, and he's like, I'm going to hit everything firm. Well, if you don't find, the cup, you're going to have a lot of bad putts coming back to the green. And he had a couple 4 putts, which is crazy. But that's what these greens, that's what they caused. So you saw that a lot. The score wasn't nearly as low as it once was. Or not so much once was, but in the last couple of years, that wasn't due to weather. So this tournament, I'd say the golf course was the winner, but it's nice to see Adam Scott on top because I don't remember the last time he won. But now he gets, another year of I think another 2 years of exemption. I think he just automatically qualifies for the Masters, the US Open, all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see Adam Scott on top. And it's good to see some of these other golfers on top, honestly. Max Homa's coming into his own. Not only is he kind of a social media darling, but he's actually playing well enough to be in a consideration of a top golfer week in, week out. I wouldn't say a top golfer, but still, it's notable. I now that we talk about Max Homa, I do want to bring up one thing. Adam Scott. So I travel a lot during Saturday, Sunday. That's why I didn't watch a lot on Sunday. Saturday, I had heard after Adam Scott's round of golf, somebody had mentioned to him, man, it must feel good to be golfing on a golf course that reminds you of home. Well, he's from Australia, which is really interesting. So he goes, yeah, I really like playing on kikuyu grass. And I can't remember whatever tree that they were talking about, but seeing those trees on this golf course reminded him back at home. So he felt comfortable here, and he has played well here. So it's really interesting to talk about those things. So maybe for next year we think about Australian golfers. I think Mark Leishman was here. I don't remember where he finished, but he did make the cut. He was playing well for a while. I don't know if Cam Smith was here, but either way, it was interesting to hear that. Max Homa, apparently this was the golf course that he basically grew up on. I didn't know that heading into this tournament. That's good information to have, especially if everything else lines up, recent form, tournament history, that kind of stuff, which we'll also get into here a little bit later. But that kind of information would have been useful going into this tournament. As you can see, the leaderboard was just mixed with different. This was the best field, mind you. The best field in a very long time that wasn't a WGC event or a major. How many top golfers are at the top of the leaderboard? I mean, you see a bunch, but they're mixed in with a bunch of mid and low, ranked golfers, or high ranked golfers, I should say. So it was really interesting. Let's go ahead and talk about this recent form stuff, or the recent form tab. I always go over this every single week. We start here and then we go to the DK page, which will happen eventually. But we like to talk about the $1 GPP. Okay, another little story. I'll make this quick. Wednesday night, it was 10 o'clock, and I was thinking to myself, do I want to play in that big $20 GPP? I'm glad I didn't, because I was off this week on the players that hit. I did have ownership for some of these guys at the top, but not nearly enough to make money. But it was Wednesday night, 10 o'clock, like quarter after 10 or something like that, Central Time. And the new mission start my time at 11 p.m. So I was waiting for a mission to start, because sometimes I don't like to play in high stakes games. $3 is going to be the max, and I'm only going to play that once. There wasn't a $3 tournament that was really worthy of me playing. I didn't care to play in something that the top prize was $400. So I was waiting to see if my mission for Wednesday night, Thursday, was going to be $3 plus. Because if it was, then I would have played in that $20 GPP. Long story short, it wasn't. But also that tournament closed before 11 o'clock reached. I don't know if that was DraftKings just filling in lineups because they are known to do that. Or if it had anything just people wanting to play in it. It was a smaller field, obviously, but I was waiting and it never happened. So either way, $1 GPP was the biggest, or the most money I put into a tournament. Therefore, this is what we're using. You can see the $1 GPP winning lineup was highlighted in blue over here. That was Adam Scott, Matt Kuchar, Hideki Matsuyama, Bryson DeChambeau, Colin Morikawa, and Paul Casey. This is by far the most balanced lineup I have ever seen win a tournament. As you can see, everybody is around that 7,800. Matt Kuchar at 7,800 was the lowest price guy, and Hideki Matsuyama at 9,300 was the most expensive. On DraftKings, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but those that don't, you get an average salary for golf of $8,333. As you can see, everyone hovered around that 83.33 number. Again, Matsuyama 93, and in fact, only Matsuyama and Scott were over that number. So they spent $50,000, which is your max salary to fit in a lineup, and scored 539.5 points. The optimal lineup, you would have used just 46,700 of that 50,000, and you would have scored 586.5 points. 586.5, 539, basically, that's 48 points, right? 47 points. 47 points between the $1 GPP and the optimal lineup. As you can tell, I have all the DraftKings points over here on the right side of the recent form. There were a lot of players right in here. You could mix and match a lot of these golfers. You wouldn't have chosen Dustin Johnson. It wouldn't have been your option wouldn't have been between Dustin Johnson or Max Homa. It would have been between Dustin Johnson or Hideki Matsuyama, which you wouldn't have wanted to do. But it would have been something like that. In fact, you could have went with these four golfers here. I think DJ at 89.5, which would have given you let's do it a different way. Go by salary, that way I can tell you how much we would have left over. So I would have 11 or 10,500 left. You could have went with Hideki, and that would have gotten you 48,800. I think I could go with Rom. That's 50,000 on the button, but that wouldn't have nearly been enough points. 65.5 just wouldn't cut it. I think we could get rid of Scott Brown and try to make it a little bit more. 48,200. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really a way that would have like instinctually been easy to create a lineup on. I mean, I guess or going with Rory. Could I go with Bryson? That would leave me with 7,000 on the button. So I could go with Joel Damon. That'd been 49,900. And I'm just doing this, I mean, essentially for science, you know. So 580.5 points. 6 points less than the optimal, but you still would have scored more. So that's good to know because I want to see what this looks like when we get into the DK page and look at all of our different bucket combinations and how well that would have worked out. But here you go. You know, there was room, not a lot of room, but, you know, you could have easily gotten to that first place. And it's surprising nobody else had that lineup. That guy won all by himself. I think he outscored first place by like 20-some points, or second place by 20-some points. So it was pretty impressive. Okay, let's go over the 2020 DK page. This is where we'll start getting into the stats and stuff. The first thing that I do want to mention right off the bat, I like to look at golfers who golf together on Thursday and Friday. Here you go, Sung Kang and Adam Scott. If you would have thought Adam Scott was a good play, should have paired him up with Sung Kang once. Like, that would have made sense. We also have Matt Kuchar playing with Hideki Matsuyama. Right off the cuff, you could have had, and these guys were not only in the optimal lineup, but in the $1 GPP. If you were a believer in pairing golfers up who play together, here you go. And then also that's not the last one. Obviously, Rory was a top golfer. He played with DJ. I don't think he played with Rahm, did he? I don't remember. Patrick Cantlay. Okay, so like those three golfers, you know, if you would have chosen two, if you wanted to, I don't think you would have been able to get to like Adam Scott and Matt Kuchar or anything like that. But in your mind, if you're thinking, well, I like this pairing together, Sung Kang, $6,700, that will fit any lineup. Sure, let's throw him on with a couple of Adam Scott lineups. Kuchar and Matsuyama, they're also cheap. Why not put those guys together? Easily could have done that. So I do want to showcase that because that is important information. I don't see anyone else that's notable that really played together. So just right there, those 7 golfers golf together. And then I also have like the official world golf ranking here. As you can see, not too many people outside of the top 100 except for Scott Brown. He was outside the top 300. Was able to finish well. I mean, Scott Brown had some good course history at this tournament. And I believe that he went to the course history. So where was he? I forget. Course history 48.83. If I went down to 48.83, we could see his finishing position. So 37. I do have to update the 2020. But he had a 37th last year, a missed cut, a second place. So he was kind of in between, but this is another top 10 for him, which is impressive, obviously. But it's saying that he's never. To mention it is just to allow you guys to understand. He's done it before, so it's not uncommon for him to do it again. I realize I don't have my filter on, so I'll go ahead and filter that. There we go. Yeah, I think it was worth mentioning. You can also see the fantasy points per game, the value. You guys can go ahead, pause this, look at that however you want. I'm going to go ahead and hide all of this up until here. We can start talking about course history, recent form. I told you guys you wanted to find some course history. In fact, let me go ahead and throw up the player pool that I wanted. My first one was shots gained tee to green plus overall POA plus birdie or better. Course history, some recent form, I wanted it to be decent. And then I also had my bucket scores, which held up. Not nearly as well as I would have wanted them to. I mean, it still applied. All of that is true. 4 and 5 were true for this year. Just wasn't as prevalent as I wanted it to be. All right, so wanted some course history. As you can tell, basically all but one golfer, Wyndham Clark, had course history inside the top 20. So it was very, and honestly, this golf course, you would have wanted course history because of how hard it played, how difficult it was, the greens and how difficult some of those putted. I mean, it was, you definitely wanted to know that information, or you wanted course history, and it was actually good course history. Joel Damon played it one time before, missed the cut, but he had course history, so obviously did well. Ches Reavie missed the cut the year before, so like him and Harold Varner the third, although HV3 was at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, he eagled the first hole on Sunday and was first place. You know, that was because Rory McIlroy, Matt Kuchar, and Adam Scott hadn't yet started. They hadn't teed off, or they hadn't finished hole one. And therefore HV3 was at the top of the leaderboard. But he was hanging around for a while until he kind of collapsed towards the end. A good showing by him, nonetheless. But again, some of these guys, I mean, Max Homa, he must have played it a couple times and missed cut in a 37th, I'm guessing, or maybe a withdraw in a 37th. I'm not sure how you get to that 69 number for course history, something like that. In fact, I guess let me bring it up. Since we were already there, we can look at it again. Max Homa, he had 2 missed cuts, 2014 and 2015, a 37th last year. So that's why I want to look at last year's results in conjuncture to their course history, recent form, that kind of stuff, because it's important. And then recent form, we want a decent recent form. Anything that's orange, yellow, or green, I would consider decent recent form. Scott Brown, obviously not very good. Course history was pretty decent. POA was decent. I mean, I don't really like this red, but the 6.67% top 10, that's pretty good. But just going back to the recent form average, yeah, it still stood. You wanted good recent form. And obviously the optimal lineup here, if we were to highlight all of those golfers, that way we can, you know, get rid of like Rory's 3, which was really good. I mean, his 5th place finish still apply, you know, it's going to make his recent form still look really good. Now it's going to go to like 3.5 or 3.25 or whatever. So he's still playing really well. The optimal lineup, though, nobody was in green. So that means your top guys in recent form. I mean, we had some top 10s. Yeah, I mean, that's still pretty good. You know, find your golfers. I'm sure you still would have been close to winning a tournament if you'd have selected some of these golfers. But some of them were just too expensive. Like those 4 golfers on their own, you could maybe play 2 of them, like Rory McIlroy, and well, Rory and Patrick Cantlay are your cheapest options. Even like Hideki Matsuyama, the only golfer with decent recent form that finished inside the top 10 was Max Homa, and he was $7,500. So that would have been good. But like mixing Max Homa with Rory and say Patrick Cantlay, you're right at 30,000. So I mean 28.9, you're close to 30,000. Meaning your next 3 golfers can't exceed $20,000. So they have to be in that basically $6,000 range, which would have been possible, but it would have been very difficult regardless. And these golfers also wouldn't have given you the, you know, the max, you know, the optimal or close to. I don't even know if you would have won a tournament with Rory, Cantlay, and Max Homa, just those 3, and then add some $6,000 golfers, unless it was, of course, Sung Kang. And now I have to check. This is stupid. So Rory, Cantlay, Homa, Kang, Brown. We're at 41,600, so we actually have a lot of money to spend. Go with Kuchar, 49,400. So yeah, recent form, you could have found the top guys on recent form, or some of them, obviously, to make a decent lineup. Let's put it this way. Only 2 golfers missed the cut. The rest of them had so-so finishes. I don't know exactly how well you would have been able to. It would still been on the high side of the. I mean, if you would have followed that. Again, very difficult to do. I understand this sounds insane and crazy. I'm not going to fully get into it and say the what ifs, all of the what ifs. 652.5 still Is that right? Did I select one extra golfer? Oh yeah. So 537.5. You would have missed first place by 2 points. So doable. I mean, you still would have made good money. Either way, we won't continue going forward with that. I just want to show the top recent form. We can show the top course history, and you see a lot of golfers here in the top 20. Again, 2 missed cuts, but all of these guys here, course history definitely mattered. Let's go ahead, hide this information now. We'll start talking about the POA. So I'll go ahead and sort by POA from top to bottom. Again, it mattered. I guess if we, scroll down, these are your top 20 golfers. You would have had 6 missed cuts, 7 top 20s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 top 10s. So the 5 top 10s obviously would have given you pretty good. If you went with the top 3, like Adam Scott had the best overall POA and won the tournament. No surprise. The second best, Rory. 5th. Third best, Dustin. The rest of these golfers, Eric Van Rooyen, 4 events, that's obviously going to go down now that he had a missed cut. Jason Day was extremely disappointing. He choked it away. He was, I think, -4 after the first day. So he was looking good, or he had gotten to -4 and choked it all away and missed the cut. Just awful. Paul Casey was in your $1 GPP winning lineup. He was your 5th best or 6th best golfer for POA. Patrick Cantlay. Rose was one of my favorite golfers. Didn't do well. Unfortunate. He was doing well after the first 2 rounds, but he either got fatigued or whatever. Something happened. I mean, the course was tough, of course. Rahm, Hideki, again, your top golfers once again. So as we look at all these golfers that finished inside the top 20, it was your elite golfers that were able to do, pretty good stuff. Like Colin Morikawa, you could even include him. He was one of my other favorite golfers, especially with his bucket combination. So definitely something to look for next year. I think it was just a given. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't a surprise. Look at our top 10 percentage. It's still, you still have the same amount of missed cuts and top 10s, top 20s. So I'm not going to go fully into it. You guys can look at this, screenshot it, whatever. You can have your information that way. Your 2020 POA, not as relevant. Here we go. Here's Mark Leishman, finished 43rd. So the other Aussie. Unfortunately, this will make his... it won't really increase his overall POA that much, but obviously his 2020 POA, it definitely will. So yeah, there wasn't much to look at the 2020 POA, but POA in general, overall, and even the top 10, definitely something to look forward to. I'm going to go ahead, hide the rounds. This is how many rounds of golf that determine these stats. And then the number of holes to determine the green and reg. Proximity and their attempts. I'm going to go ahead and hide those columns so we can see kind of more of the information that I find more important. I just want to make sure you guys understand that that's what I'm doing. Okay. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead, sort it again by finishing position. So top to bottom. Obviously, Adam Scott was your winner. This column here, I usually put an asterisk next to because I want to show the golfers that I'm interested in, and I can also sort by that type of information. What I want you guys to okay, I explained in the preview, but if you didn't watch the preview, in the review here, what I did was tee to green, their stats, in combination with their bucket. So this bucket combination of 1-1, Adam Scott was the 13th ranked golfer in that bucket. So as you can tell, you see a lot of 1s, and a lot of 1s represent their bucket for tee to green. Now you can see some of these guys not that great. Like Vaughn Taylor was the top guy in his bucket combination, and he was in the negative. I mean, this dark red indicates the bottom half of the field. But still was the best in his bucket combination. DJ, well, I think it was pretty much all to himself because, I mean, and he also didn't have enough tournaments to actually garner stats. Joel Damon, top of his. Rory, top of his. Matt Kuchar, top of his. And there weren't many golfers in that bucket. There weren't many golfers in this bucket. Sung Kang was his second. So I just wanted to go by tee to green because, again, in my player pool, I wanted tee to green, overall POA, and actually, that's what I should unhide some of this information because I do want the overall POA stats to actually show up. So what I wanted to do was combine this tee to green with their POA, and anyone that was like really good, I definitely wanted to select, especially with their birdie or better stat. Like Scott Brown, basically one of our only anomalies. Max Homa, yeah, that's not good either. So another one, kind of. Yeah, I would definitely say. Because if it wasn't for birdie or better, so I'm trying to find guys that are either light green or yellow. These are guys that I really like. I didn't exclude anyone in the orange. So like these golfers were golfers I wanted to find, and then I also wanted to pair up the tee to green to go with it. And of course, like I said before, I also wanted to include the POA. So I should have just done that while I was scrolling across. As you can tell, these golfers here, they matched the profile I was looking for. The only ones that obviously didn't, Scott Brown, Max Homa, Joel Damon, Ches Reavie, Taylor Gooch, James Hahn, and Kyung Hoon Lee or KH Lee. Scott Piercy and Wyndham Clark down here, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have found them to be that great. But for the most part, it matched up. So my number one player pool criteria, I could have found these guys. You know, like even Sung Kang, that's not terrible. It really isn't. It's very much in the middle of the pack, but that's not terrible. And it was good enough. It would have followed my requirements. Scott Brown wouldn't have, so I don't even know where to start with Scott Brown other than course history. He's played well here before. Max Homa and Joel Damon. If I had known Max Homa, this was one of his favorite courses, a lot of these stats wouldn't have mattered. He could be a specialist at a certain golf course, and POA might be his specialty. I'm not sure. Joel Damon, I think, is more of a bent grass golfer, prefers bent grass a little bit more. But, you know, tee to green was fantastic. I want to mix that. I mean, birdie or better, that wasn't very good. But again, he was the top tee to green guy in his group. So I think, you know, it's interesting to look at this. I'll definitely look at this for next year when I try to look at, you know, things that I find interesting, or let's put it this way, when I create my player criteria for next year, my player pool criteria, I'll definitely again come back here, look at this, and determine what I think is relevant. I wanted to bring one more thing up. If you watched my preview video, you would have heard me kind of suppose I can't hide that. Okay, I don't have to show the result. You guys can see it. I went on a rant about driving distance, that you wanted bombers at this golf course. You wanted bombers to do well at this course. As you can see, I have driving distance, driving accuracy, and good drive percentage. I added those for this week, and I might add them going forward, but definitely just for this week because of how many people, how many guys who create YouTube videos, I'm not going to call them pros because they're obviously not pros, but how many people create YouTube videos on golf analysis and try to find players? Everyone wanted a bomber. Adam Scott, sure. Hits the ball far. Rory McIlroy, sure. Bryson DeChambeau, Harold Varner, he's one to talk about. And Wyndham Clark, we can also talk about him. These three golfers here shouldn't even be in a conversation about being a bomber. They're just good fucking golfers. They're elite golfers. So driving distance, let's get rid of them. Don't even include them. Okay, now we have Matt Kuchar, 279.80 average driving distance. That's like at the very low end of driving distance. Actually, how about this? Let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and remove all the blanks. let's do this and look at what we see over here. I see 5 golfers who made the top 20. I see 9 golfers who missed the cut, and everyone else in between. When we talk about golfers who are bombers, let's take out the elite golfers and only talk about golfers who are known for hitting the ball far, like a Luke List. He's a perfect description of a bomber because he's not an elite golfer, but his specialty is hitting the ball far. Or like a JB Holmes, same thing. He hits the ball far. Well, the only golfers that I can tell right now, Wyndham Clark and Harold Varner III. Nobody else up here I can tell you is a quote-unquote bomber who finished well. You know, Johnny Vegas hits the ball far, sure. I didn't know Sam Burns hit the ball far, but it's good to know going forward. Matt Wolff hits the ball far. It's the cut. Patrick Rogers usually does well. He's also a bomber. 30th. Scheffler 30th. Kevin Tway, known for a bomber, missed the cut. I honestly didn't know Danny Lee hit the ball that far. That's interesting to know. Missed the cut. Jason Kokrak missed the cut. Cameron Champ, by far the furthest driver this year, missed the cut. And then our prize possession, Bubba Watson, for all of the one and dones, missed the cut because driving distance didn't matter at this golf course, honestly. Did not matter at this golf course. Driving accuracy, if I were to go and sort by that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who missed the cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys who finished inside the top 20. So I had said you wanted to find accurate golfers. It applies somewhat, more so than driving distance, but not nearly as much. Go ahead and look at the good drive percentage. And does that? No. That's pretty even keeled between missed cuts and top 20s. So really, driving didn't matter at all. It really didn't. I'm going to go ahead and select all, and then we can go ahead and go back to this. I like to look at the bucket combinations. I said 1 to 3. Again, I can throw this up. Actually, it was 1 to 4 last year 2s and 1 to 4 last year 1s. And primarily we want to find a 2-1 and a 1-1 in as many times as I show it up there. If I go ahead and bring back the spreadsheet, your 2-1, Taylor Gooch, top 10. That was it. Your only 2-1. And off your only 2, last year 2, that is, that finished inside the top 10. But the 1-1's very prevalent, and we kind of knew it was going to be because there were so many good golfers that were in that 1-1 bucket. Again, when we find out these bucket combinations, we see the percentages of, you know, kind of our confidence number. We got to look at the golfers inside those buckets and then determine, you know, if a 2-1, let's go ahead and sort it by 2-1s. We can go ahead, sort it by 2-1s. I'm actually going to open this back up, and maybe we go ahead and official world golf ranking. Go by that. Brooks Koepka, one of your top guys, didn't play all that bad. He was, that Saturday round was pretty good. You needed him in your showdown slate for Saturday to win any money. Justin Rose, unfortunate. Patrick Reed, like, as you can tell, all your top golfers, when we get past this right here, I have no confidence in most of these golfers. Colin Morikawa, I did, but the rest of these golfers are not nearly in the same ballpark as the top 3. Now, if I went to your 1-1s and we were to look at your 1-1s by ownership, like, look at this. Official World Golf Ranking. Let's go to the top 50. So we have 11 golfers in this 1-1 bucket that were inside the top 50. If I again go back to the 2-1s and we count your top 50, we have 5 golfers in the top 50, and really 2 of them have not been playing much PGA events, or if they have, they weren't good. It wasn't good. Sure, we have a bunch of other golfers here outside the top 50. Don't get me wrong. A lot of these guys were worth considerations in playing. Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, rising stars for sure. But then, you know, Matthew Wolff all the way down. Your 2-1s just weren't that good. But I did want to play at least one of them, and I did. Actually, let me show you that. As I created lineups, most of you guys, if you were with me on the lineup construction page, I know this video is running way longer than it should, but you can see most of my 2-1s are over here on this left side. I included, since it was in 100% of lineups, you can kind of tell here that 100%, that would represent a 2-1. 100% of lineups, I should say this. I say this all the time. In the last 6 years, 100% of those tournaments had a 2-1 inside the top 10. That's why I played 100%. I just had a good feeling that Colin Morikawa was going to be the man. And if it wasn't Colin Morikawa, it was Justin Rose. So I played a lot of Justin Rose and Colin Morikawa together. I also played a lot of Justin Rose by himself, and I just mix and match all the other 2-1s I possibly could. So I played somewhere between 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 2-1s in all of my lineups. I can guarantee you all of these guys here are your 2-1s. Sepp Straka, Alex Noren. I did play a Taylor Gooch lineup, I want to say, or maybe I didn't, which would have been terrible, because when these bucket combinations, when you put them together, you should always have at least one of them, especially when 100% of them, finish inside the top 10. Not 100% of them. 100% of 2-1s have 100% of tournaments have had a 2-1 inside the top 10. There we go. Man. I'm trying to sell this to you guys, and I can't fully explain it. I got to work on that. But yeah, here you go. Here was all of my ownership, and we can go ahead and look at my ownership. So if I were to go ahead and bring that up, I did track this. I usually track it in my lineup construction spreadsheet. So let's just go ahead and hide these 2 columns here. Oh, so we'll just keep hiding more. There you go. Okay, so here's the top of the leaderboard. As you can tell, 1st through 20, you can see all my ownership percentages over here. Matt Kuchar just fit most of my lineups very nicely, so I put him in a bunch, but he was not a golfer I was really thinking about playing. Adam Scott, a 1-1. Just because he hadn't played in a while, I was hesitant in playing him, and I really liked Rory. I really liked Justin Thomas, honestly. He was definitely my favorite golfer to play, of the 1-1s to play. But 13%, 13.5% Rory. These numbers were good. I'm probably more disappointed not playing any Max Homa or any of those 2. Although it was they're bucket combination. Like, no one up here is 0% except for James Hahn, and he finished outside the top 10, so I wouldn't have wanted to play him anyways. I can scroll through here and show you more of my higher ownership percentages. 21.5% Xander, 74% Colin Morikawa. So that was how high I was on Colin. I can come down here. Bud Cauley, I played him in 35%. Justin Rose, I played him in 54%. I was also really high on the 4-1s, and I'll go back and show you that. Alex Noren, I also wanted to play a lot. He just a good price point in that 2-4. I think we had seen a 2-4 in like 4 of the last 6 years or something like that, so it just got me on him. There you go. JT, 35%. Sung J M also buried me, 47.69%. And that was because I had seen a 4-1 in a lot of years. If I were to go back to here, we saw a 4-1 5 out of 6 years. That 2-4 was 3 out of 6 years. So that's kind of how my strategy was when I created lineups. And it was a bad week for me. I think I put in $26 and won 10 total, so I lost 16. Kind of counteracts last week. I had profited 14, so that definitely takes that away. But I'm gonna leave that video at that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you I'll see you shortly. I'm gonna have a preview video for the WGC shortly. All right, bye.